The lights of Studio 6B shimmered like city stars as the Tonight Show band finished their jazzy intro, and Jimmy Fallon bounded onto the stage, radiating his usual easy charm. "Ladies and gentlemen," he beamed, his voice rising above the applause. "You know her. You love her. One of the funniest, most down-to-earth comedians in America. Please welcome Leanne Morgan." The audience broke into cheers as Leanne Morgan strode confidently onto the set. Her blonde hair was curled to perfection, her soft pink jacket catching the lights as she waved to the crowd. There was something effortlessly warm about her, the kind of presence that made everyone, from stay-at-home moms to college kids, lean forward when she spoke. She greeted Jimmy with a hug, her southern accent already disarming him before she even sat down. "Leanne, welcome back," Jimmy said, smiling wide as the applause faded. "Thank you, honey," Leanne said, settling into the guest chair with a polite smile. "I love being here. It's just so fun to see you in person. You remind me of one of my daughter's old boyfriends." All teeth and energy. The audience burst into laughter. Jimmy blushed and grinned, playing along. "Well, I'll take that as a compliment, unless you didn't like him." Leanne crossed her legs gracefully and smirked. "Oh no, I liked him just fine. Till he borrowed my car and brought it back smelling like Red Bull and disappointment." The laughter roared again and Fallon clapped, delighted. "You see, this is why people love you. You can make anything funny." "Well," Leanne said, "I just talk about life. You live long enough, it gets funny whether you like it or not." The crowd's laughter softened into admiration. Jimmy leaned in, seizing the momentum. "You've had such a huge year. Your Netflix special, I'm Every Woman, blew up. You're selling out theaters across the country." "What's that like?" Leanne smiled. "It's been wonderful, Jimmy. I mean, who'd have thought a woman from Knoxville talking about menopause and teenagers would end up on the big screen? I told my husband on Honey it only took me 40 years and 3 hot flashes on stage, but I finally made it." The audience erupted again, but Jimmy noticed something deeper in her tone, a mix of pride and fatigue. "You really connect with people," he said thoughtfully. "You've got this honesty that feels refreshing, like no filters, just real life." "That's how we do it in the South," Leanne said. "You tell it like it is. And if people get mad, you bake them a casserole and call it even." The room filled with laughter again, but Jimmy couldn't resist probing. "So, Leanne," he said, glancing at his cue cards, "I read somewhere that some critics have called your humor a bit traditional, like very family-centered, a little old-fashioned. What do you think of that?" Leanne blinked. The words "a bit traditional" rolled in her mind like a challenge. She smiled, though her tone cooled a degree. "Old-fashioned?" She repeated slowly, her accent stretching the word until it almost dripped. "Well, sugar, that's just another way of saying I've got some home training." The crowd laughed, but the undercurrent of tension was unmistakable. Jimmy chuckled awkwardly, holding up his hands. No, I mean, I think that's great. It's just, comedy is evolving and..." Leanne cut in, her smile unwavering. "Oh, I know, honey. These days, if you don't make at least one joke about politics or cancel culture, you're practically invisible." A few laughs, a few nervous murmurs. Fallon shifted in his seat. "Well, comedy's always changing with the times," he said. "Sure," Leanne said, crossing her arms gently. "But I've been changing diapers and working, since before most of these critics could spell woke. Maybe the world don't need new comedy. Maybe it just needs to remember how to laugh without getting offended." Applause broke out from part of the audience, mixed with a few gasps. Fallon laughed nervously. "You're not wrong there. People do get sensitive these days." Leanne leaned forward. "Jimmy, I had a woman come up to me after a show once and tell me I shouldn't joke about my husband snoring. She said it was demeaning to men. Can you believe that?" I said, "Darling, if you think I'm demeaning men, you should hear what I say about my teenagers." The crowd erupted. The moment lightened again, and Fallon laughed in relief. "That's hilarious! You should write that down for your next special." "Oh, it's already in there, sugar," Leanne said with a wink. "I've got enough material just from watching my husband try to fix the Wi-Fi." The laughter settled, and Fallon seemed ready to move on. But something in Leanne's tone, the mix of sharp humor and quiet defiance, gave the air a new weight. He sensed she wasn't done. "You know," she continued softly, "I think sometimes folks mistake kindness for weakness, or tradition for ignorance. But where I come from, people say yes ma'am and no sir. They hold the door open, they pray before dinner, and they still laugh at themselves. If that's old-fashioned, then maybe we need more of it." The audience broke into applause, clapping harder than they had all night. Fallon smiled, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. The moment had turned. What was supposed to be lighthearted banter had transformed into something raw and real. The commercial break ended, but backstage, the air felt thick, heavy with something unsaid. Leanne Morgan stood by the curtain, a cup of water in hand, watching crew members rush about with headsets and clipboards. She wasn't angry, not exactly, but she was tired of the dance, of smiling through comments dressed as compliments. Her southern grace kept her polite, but her patience was thinning like a thread about to snap. Jimmy Fallon, ever the professional, adjusted his jacket as he walked over. "Hey, Leanne," he said carefully, his smile tentative. "That segment was lively. People loved it." Leanne turned to him, her expression unreadable for a moment before softening into a polite half-smile. "Lively's one way to put it, sugar. I think we might have scared a few folks." He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Nah, you were great. You're just honest. It's refreshing." "Honest can be dangerous these days, Jimmy," she said quietly. "People don't like it when you tell the truth, not unless it fits their version of it." He nodded, not sure what to say. There was a pause. The showrunner gestured that they were live again in 30 seconds, and Fallon's producer whispered something in his ear. His smile snapped back into place. "All right, we're back in 10. You ready?" Leanne looked at him, that spark back in her eyes. "Born ready, baby," she said with a grin. They walked back out to the cheers of the crowd, the lights flashing bright again. Fallon took his seat, holding his cue cards like a shield. Leanne sat down beside him, smiling for the audience, though her posture had changed, straighter, more grounded, as if she'd decided this second round wasn't going to be about playing nice. "Welcome back, everybody," Jimmy said, waving to the camera. "We're here with the hilarious Leanne Morgan, and she's got some opinions, folks." The crowd laughed, and Leanne chuckled sweetly. "Oh, honey, I've always got opinions." "That's what happens when you hit 50. You realize you've earned the right to have some." Jimmy smiled. "Well, let's get into one then," he said, reading from a card. "You've talked before about how comedy's gotten too serious. But some people would say comedians should take on serious topics, politics, gender, race. You don't think so?" The audience went quiet, waiting. Leanne folded her hands in her lap and tilted her head slightly, her drawl as slow and deliberate as honey dripping off a spoon. "Jimmy, I think people ought to talk about what they know. If you're passionate about something, fine, talk about it. But don't lecture folks who came to laugh. I'm not out here running for office. I'm telling jokes. That used to be enough." A ripple of applause moved through the audience. Fallon gave a quick laugh, trying to diffuse the gravity. "I get that, but—" Leanne leaned forward. "No, really. Somewhere along the way, comedy turned into a battleground. You can't even joke about burnt toast without somebody calling it a metaphor for inequality. People don't come to my shows for that. They come because life's hard enough already." Fallon blinked, clearly unsure whether to nod or pivot. "Yeah, but don't you think comedians also have a platform? Like to push conversations forward?" Leanne smiled again, but this time there was steel under it. "Jimmy, not everything needs a platform. Some things just need a punchline." The audience burst into applause, a few even whistling. Fallon laughed nervously and tapped his cards against the desk. "Well, you definitely don't hold back," he said. Leanne shrugged. "I can't, sugar. I'm too old to start now." For a brief moment, the laughter and applause covered the tension. But Fallon, perhaps guided by his producers through the earpiece, decided to press further. "So when you say you don't hold back, does that mean you don't care if people get offended?" Leanne's smile faded slightly. "I care about people," she said. "I just don't care about their outrage." There's a difference. A hush fell. Even the band members seemed to still. Fallon leaned back, forcing another laugh. Okay, I see where this is going, he said lightly. You're saying people are too sensitive now? I'm saying people mistake being loud for being right, Leanne replied smoothly. And that's not just folks online, it's this whole industry. You can't even say good morning without wondering who's going to tweet about it.